When Word was in its infancy, do you remember that spell check was also in its infancy and just almost a miracle of modern science? Well, we've gotten a little more sophisticated since then, and so in Word, spell check has been joined by a couple of other buttons in the proofing group. So today we're going to look at an example and see just how effective that proofing group is. Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Consumer Technology Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library, and let's look at Word and the proofing group. As we look at our example document, we can see that there may be some problems with it. For example, we have some words that have red squiggly lines underneath them, and we have other words that have blue double lines underneath them. To get started, you might even decide to go to the Home tab, and then on the far right, there is an editor button. Now, this editor button repeats with the proofing group. Let's click on the editor button because it's going to give us maybe some ideas of some of the things we need to look for. So here it says we get a 47 out of 100, so we need to do some improving. As we come down, we can see that we need to have spelling, 7 different corrections that need to be made. Grammar, there's 6 corrections that need to be made. Conciseness, there's 1. Formality, we have 1 as well. Now we can also come down to the Insights and click on Document Stats, and we'll get a warning that says that if we have a long document, it's going to take a while. Well, this is really short, so we'll click OK, and it's virtually instantaneous. But now it gives us some basic counts, and these statistics in these 2 sections help Word figure out then the readability. So right now we're at 5th grade level, basically, almost 6th grade level of readability. Well, we'll click OK. And now that we have an idea of what we need to do, we can close out the editor. Let's go to the Review tab. Now, the Review tab is way over on the far right of your ribbon. And when you click on the Review tab, the very first group here on the left is the proofing group. And as promised, the editor button is the very first button here. And then to the right of that, we have spelling and grammar. To the right of that, Thesaurus. And to the right of that, word count. Now, word count is generally used only when you are told you must write 250 words, 500 words, no more than 1,000 words. And so you want to be sure that you have the correct word count. Let's look at spelling and grammar and click on the drop down. And let me click on spelling. And as soon as I click on spelling, it brings up the editor. And with the editor, the very first item is this seasons. Now, here are some things that we do want to consider. First of all, we have this particular word in the context of its sentence. And then it says, well, it might be seasons, as in periods, flavors, terms, or it might be seasons with an apostrophe S, or even seasons. Even though it is not spelled correctly, maybe we are quoting someone else and we would want to ignore that particular instance. And then we could say, well, we want to just ignore it every time we see it. Another thing that might happen is, let's say that seasons is a restaurant name, and that is how that restaurant's name is spelled. Well, we could add it to the dictionary so that every time we type seasons with 2 E's, it would ignore that particular spelling because it is in our personal dictionary. But in this case, what I want to do is come up to seasons, the first one here, and click on it, and you'll notice that it is spelled correctly and the red squiggly line has gone away. And then we have dangerous, and we'll find that one. Now again, I can ignore it, I can add it to my dictionary, or I select the one that I think is correct. For leaves, we know that's greeneries. It even has greeneries, but it also has departs and allows. So leaves has several different meanings, even though it's all spelled the same way. Well, we'll go with L-E-A. Maybe weather settles down. It's not really weather, it's weather as in this choice, climate. So we'll click on it. Consider B4 instead of B without the E. And we will click on that. And here it's just a typo, and it will fix it for us, and we can click on that. And then we have happen. And again, just bad spelling or bad typing. And we have gone through all of the corrections, so now we have a check mark for spelling. Now we also have some grammar considerations, so we'll click on that. And with this, also the grass. Now we'll go ahead and take that consideration, but then we may come back to that later. We have right now, so let's look at what it tells me. After an introductory word or phrase, a comma is best, so we'll click on now, comma. Here, we're feeling the effects, and it's saying, you know what, we think you used an incorrect word. And yes, so we'll go with the E for effects and not the A for effects. Let's see, I wish I had their jobs. And it's saying at the top, possible word choice error. It's really the pronoun there. And then I can't remember the last time. Possible word choice error. And it's saying we need to consider can't with an apostrophe instead. So we'll click on that. So let's see, grammar, there's still one more. Let's click on it. It says a comma between clauses is better here. We used to get blizzard snows, comma, but I can't. So let's click on that one. And it says we have gone through all of the grammar. Now, as we've made these choices, look at this, 87%. What is interesting is I started with, over here at the button, spelling only, but I was immediately drawn into spelling and grammar, wasn't I? Now, we also have this possibility of a thesaurus. And I did see this one place where we used to get blizzard snows, and it seems to me that maybe we need to look at the thesaurus for that. Let's click on just blizzard by itself, go with thesaurus, and now it's suggesting, oh, snowstorm. That might be, we used to get snowstorms, so at least I can get the base word and then go from there. Now, here's what happens. If I go to blizzard and I just click on snowstorm, for example, it says, well, that means that we're in the right area, but you actually want to find the synonyms for snowstorm, and it gives me all of these different choices for snowstorm. I didn't really want to do that, so I'm going to go back a level, and let's say that I truly want to use snowstorm. I click on the drop down, and I can insert or copy from the drop down, but be careful not to click. So I can click on insert, and now we used to get snowstorm, and I'm going to add an S there, and then take out snows. And then I can close the thesaurus. But you can see how that is very easy to work with. Now let's look here because I'm seeing some other kinds of information. I have weave with a dotted blue line. So when I click on that, it says, wait a minute, that is a formality. Oh, well, that's one of the things in the editor that we kind of skipped so far. And it says, no, we have two formalities. Well, it's telling us we need to fix that. So instead of we've, we'll go with we have. And I also have a blue dotted dashed underline here, maybe weather. And we're looking at conciseness now. So again, conciseness is part of what we found in the editor that wasn't quite right, but this is words expressing uncertainty lessen your impact. And they are suggesting that we start that sentence with weather. Well, let's do that. So weather settles down in a month or two. We'll have to think about that one a little bit. Oh, here's another one. The blue kind of dashed line, bad weather. Click on it, and it says more specific adjectives are clear and add impact. So instead of bad weather, we might say something like severe weather, harsh weather, dangerous weather. Let's go with severe weather. And then I'm noticing that we still have some blue kind of dotted dashed underlines. We had a lot of wind. Well, let's click on that. And it says, now this is from the resume part of the editor, but it says specific numbers or examples add impact to a resume. We had a lot of wind. I don't think I can quantify the wind, so I'm going to leave it there as a lot. Where else do we see a dotted or dashed line? Oh, down here. We haven't. When I click on that, if we're looking for more formal writing, we try to spell out the words, so we'll go with have not. And here's another kind of dotted dashed line. I can't. We'll click on that. Again, it's for formal writing, and we change that to cannot. Well, as we did that, we can see that we did pretty well. There's a conciseness, nearly the. Although we have not had nearly the bad weather and snow we used to have. It says words expressing uncertainty lessen your impact. So although we've not had the bad weather, let's just take off the nearly. And then we've checked that. We're missing another formality. Where's that? Snow doesn't. And so we want to make that does not. And as we work through, you can see how I start maybe with the buttons, but invariably I wind up working with the editor. We're at 93%. That has to count for something here. And then vocabulary. We have two choices that we need to make here. So very long. Replacing or removing the adverb here would be clearer. Let's see. Snow does not usually stay around very long. Now, I'm going to take exception to that suggestion because snow really doesn't stay around generally very long. Usually it snows one day and it starts melting by the next day or two. So it's not exceptionally long or exceedingly long or extraordinarily long. It just doesn't stay around very long. So I'm going to let that go. If you decide that you like your word choice, then up at the top, I have little navigation arrows here that take me back one or forward one. So I'll go to the next one. And it says, although we have not had the bad weather, more specific adjectives are clearer and add impact. Well, we've already said severe weather here. So maybe we need to say harsh weather. And then we'll close out of vocabulary. And so let's see what we have. We have 96%. Almost everything has a check mark. Resume now is at 2. Click on that. We've had a lot of wind. Well, we can't quantify it. So let's go to the arrow at the top. And winter has brought a lot of severe weather. And again, we need to have specific numbers. Maybe what we do is, in this case, close out of that suggestion. And we can even say, winter has brought us severe weather before. And that puts us at 96%. And it brings us only to the resume where we disagree with it, and vocabulary for very long, and we kind of take exception to that. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. Now at that point, we can check our document stats again, and we're at, well, 5th grade reading level, but the reading ease has increased. So we're going to say, okay, this is pretty good. Here's the thing. With spell check, Word lets any misspelled word go if it's misspelled within the context of what you have written, but it is not misspelled because it's an actual word. So let's read through and find some examples of that. right now we're feeling. Now, Word sees this as a verb, but in fact, it's we're feeling the effects of fall. Totally different, isn't it? And yet, Word saw that as just an okay word. We had a lot of wind in the past month or so, and we have had a lot of tree branches break. Well, that is a word, break. It's what I have on my car, but it's definitely not what I have in a tree. And fall to the ground. We have a really hard time keeping up with all the weather changes, but so do the weather people on TV, period. We have a run-on sentence here, and for some reason, the grammar checker didn't pick that up. As we go back up, we have an 80%, and we could have chosen, instead of formal writing, professional writing, which would have been a step up from what we're doing now, or we could have chosen casual writing, which would have allowed contractions, for example. Our spelling is good, our grammar is good. Formality, oh, we have 5 problems, so let's fix those. We are, it is, I am, oh, I think they, and they're just saying expressing opinions with certainty adds formality. So I should say, I wish I had their jobs because they are hardly ever right. Well, that's kind of hurtful. Conciseness, we have 2. Again, with conciseness, it's meant to be clearer for your reader. So instead of saying really dangerous, we just say dangerous. And instead of really good, we just say good. We're at 90%. Now, one of these is one that we want to keep. Let's see, resume. We had a lot of wind. We want to keep that. Vocabulary, there's 2 of them. We had a really hard time. More specific adjectives are clear and add impact. And then they give us some ideas of more precise words. So we have a really challenging time keeping up with all the weather changes. We have a tough time. We could do that. And then again, this is the one that we really kind of don't agree with Word, so we're going to close out of this. At that point, let's go to the insights in our document stats. Now we're at a reading level of 10.6, and yet the reading ease is, instead of 84, 66. So it's easier to read. We have a reading level of 10th grade now, and it's a much improved document. To learn even more, be sure to go to mymcpl.org/online learning for such great resources as Universal Class, LinkedIn Learning, Learning Express Library, and Udemy Business. We also premiere new videos every Wednesday and Friday at 1 o'clock. If you miss a video premiere, you'll still be able to find it later when it's convenient for you. You can find us on Facebook at MCPL 360, and you can find us on YouTube by going to our MCPL MO channel.